So the kit came with a new O-ring for this distributor cover right there. That's where they used to put them years ago when they had them. So let's pull that off of there and replace that. So this gasket is really not looking like it's the right thickness. So since this one is in fine shape, it's still pliable, I think I'm just going to leave it. I think I'd rather not risk putting that in and then really having a mess. So yeah, anyways, it came out pretty easy. Unscrewed that one bolt, kind of put a screwdriver in there and just turned it to pry it and get it out. And easy peasy, but I don't think it was worth it. So I think we'll put it back. So time to put the push rods back in and the actual intake gasket. So the Felpros are labeled push rod guide, Felpro, it's got the model number there. That's going to go up, and obviously the little tabs here are going to go on the upward side. So it's got little notches it sits right in. So before I did this, just did one final check, went all the way around and made sure that this was absolutely clean. I got no burrs, no sand, no cat hair, whatever. And same thing with the gasket. I went through and made sure everything's nice and clean. So easy peasy. That's just going to sit right in there and not get my rag in the way. Just like so. Kind of little nubs that hold it in place. It's got a little bit of wiggle room. So now the push rods, when I took these out, I had them all labeled. I've got them bagged so I know which one goes in one spot. We started 2 through 6 and then 7 through 12 on the back. So let's go ahead and get those put back in. Okay, bag number 1 contains 1 push rod into the slot, and surprise, 1 rocker arm assembly. Pretty self-explanatory here. When I took these out, I also made sure that I kept this seat all the way up so that it didn't rotate. I don't think it makes any difference, but you know, whatever. I kept it the same just in case. I always like to start these by hand just to make sure I'm not getting them cross-threaded, because that could spoil your afternoon right there. Alright, got enough thread in there now, should be able to crank it down. And there is a torque spec. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, so we'll look at our handy dandy torque spec in a moment. Okay. Now before I kind of get too much tension on these, I like to make sure it's lined up good. It's right on top of the valve there. Make sure everything's lined up there. It is. So we can go ahead and put some tension on that spring till we feel it bottom out, and that's good. And the rest we'll do with the torque wrench. So no need to watch me do the rest of these. Boring, repetitive. So these lifters are essentially non-adjusting. There's really nothing that you can do to change anything on them. Some of the older ones, you know, look like the nuts. You could kind of adjust how far they go down, but these new ones don't appear as though that's even possible. But anyways, one of the things that's been kind of bugging me, every rocker arm that I put on here, I'm noticing that the valve is opening. And you know, the first one I did, obviously, I'm like, whatever, the camshaft is lined up, so it's probably on the exhaust stroke for that cylinder or whatever, no big deal. And then I went and did the intake for that same cylinder, and it's like, wait a minute, that one's compressing too. So it concerned me a little bit, but I went and did some research on how these things actually work. Here, I'm going to show you what I mean. So right here, I'm to the point where there's really no slack left in this bolt. And then as I start cranking down, there goes the the valve. It's opening up. And then that's pretty much where the screw bottoms out. And now I'm at my torque spec. Well, I need to still spec it, but the bolt stops turning at that point. But anyways, that really concerned me because that's done that on pretty much, it has done it on every valve. And I think what's going on after looking at how hydraulic lifters work is, well, kind of beyond the spec of this, or purpose of this video, but at the bottom of the lifter, there's a little ball and a spring that holds the oil. And I think what happens is when I'm taking the pressure off of this, the spring inside of there is pushing this out. That chamber is allowed to fill with oil, and then as I'm putting the spring tension back on, that auto-adjusting feature is actually taking place, and this is very, very slowly rocking back and the valve is closing. And I've kind of proven that because I've gone back to a couple that I've done 20 minutes, half an hour ago, and I've backed off on the screw and there was no tension, the valve was closed. So I think I'm okay. Probably going to spin this thing over slowly before I start it just to prove that, but anyways, just worth note, if you notice the same thing like me, I don't think there's a need to freak out just yet. Okay, so the spec on these is 24 foot-pounds. A reasonably good amount for a small bolt. Okay, already done the front, so we are good to go.